Really bad day for Australia. I'll talk about three things here. What's happened in Bondi, why it happened, and what it's going to mean for Australia. So the best kind of breakdown of what's happened so far, I've seen in Time magazine just recently, which released an article about the shooting that's happened in Bondi, and it goes like this. If Australia's famous for anything, it's the beach, relaxed summer holidays, and its very strict gun laws. The shooting on December 14th had targeted Jews celebrating the first day of Hanukkah at Bondi Beach. A long stretch of sand, surf, and outdoor cafes just 4 miles from Sydney strikes at the heart of it all of the things that Australians take for granted. 2 men killed 16 people and shot at least 40 others at about 6:45 p.m. Witnesses say that the shooters were clearly aiming at Jews, reportedly from a local Chabad organisation, who were having an event at the beach. A witness said one of the perpetrators was moving people out of the way before he shot, so he seemed to have clear victims in mind. One of the shooters was disarmed when a man tackled him from behind. One attacker is in custody, the other is dead. This is the largest shooting to take place in Australia since a gunman opened fire in Tasmania in 1996, killing 35 people. That was the Port Arthur massacre. After this massacre, the Prime Minister at the time, John Howard, instituted a set of gun ownership reforms that were pretty strict, but have kept Australia free of mass shootings, with the exception of one, a mass shooting being defined as an incident in which more than 4 people, not including the shooter, are killed by a non-family member. So there's only been one of those in 29 years in Australia, and it is thanks to our really strict gun laws. This is the first mass shooting. It's been deemed a terrorist incident. I'll just talk about what happened, because I did speak to a very reliable witness who's in that area, and there were thousands of people on the beach that day. The overpass they shot from, they were firing from a concrete overpass in the northern section of Bondi Beach. I've walked over that overpass many times. It's a pretty decent place if you're going to fire from. It's elevated. It's got concrete flanks on either side of the bridge, so it's actually a pretty protected area. I watched video of the assailants shooting from that position. It was reported to be a father and son, but if you have a look at their equipment, they actually were pretty well prepared. They had kind of dump pouches you can keep on the side of your body. They had bandoliers of ammunition around their waist. I saw 3 weapons. I saw 2 rifles, high-powered rifles, and a shotgun of some description. That shotgun was taken off one of the attackers in a pretty incredible intervention by a fruit stall owner. Just normally a suicide mission to do something like that, but what a brave effort, and undoubtedly saved many lives. I think that the guy with the shotgun who was disarmed went forward from that bridge because the range on the shotguns is a bit less, and he went forward to try and target more people. And by intervening, the guy which did that was shot twice himself and is in hospital recovering. By intervening in that sense, he undoubtedly saved a lot of lives. So massive well done to that guy for putting his life on the line. But what a shocking, really bad event. It's such a contrast. Everything that's good about Australia, you will see at Bondi Beach. The outdoors, everything we love. It's a fantastic place. And then you contrast it against this kind of savagery. And this is very deliberate. And this has been a really deliberate thing. We've seen well before Israel started their war against Hamas as a result of the October 7th attacks in 2023. 2 days after that, there was a huge protest at the Sydney Opera House, which was very insightful, very aggressive, inciting violence. And it was celebrating the death of really 1,200 non-combatants in Israel. So very inflammatory. Not much was done about it at the government level. And ever since that point, there's been a really festering level of anti-Semitism in Australia. I've felt this personally. In Melbourne, there have been protests in the city every single weekend from that point onwards. They draw police resources. In the meanwhile, Melbourne's had a real crime wave. I've had discussions with highly educated, highly capable people that live in the cities in both Sydney and Melbourne, Australia, who express very strong anti-Semitic views. I've been quite stunned at the level that I've encountered just in my immediate circles of anti-Semitism. This has been a really divisive topic in Australia, and to some extent enabled by government policy, including the government, it's a moderate kind of centre-left government, but it has recognised Palestine. It's done a lot of things that have been contrary to I guess, allied policy, if you're talking about US policy as well. So this anti-Semitism has been festering for a really long time. There have been a lot of warnings issued by Australian intelligence groups and many other groups about where this is potentially headed. There's a bit more of a readout from Time magazine about this, and I'll read it to you now. The subsequent 16 months have been sullied by firebombing, arson, graffiti, and hate speech incidents that prompted Mike Burgess, the Director General of the Australian Secret Intelligence Organisation, that's our domestic intelligence branch. He proclaimed that his top priority in terms of threat to life is anti-Semitism. Australia, a country of 28 million people, is home to about 117,000 Jews. Figures from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry show that anti-Semitic incidents in Australia have reached historically high levels at almost 5 times the average annual number before October 7th, 2023. Now, I had a look at these numbers because that's a relative number, Reed. I wanted to see what the real numbers were, and it's pretty staggering. So they had 1,654 anti-Jewish incidents across Australia from October 2024 to September 2025. So basically over the last year. But in the year before that, they had 2,062 incidents nationwide. There has been a corresponding increase in anti-Islamic behavior, and the government appointed an anti-Islamic ambassador as well. And I wanted to check this out because there were complaints that, yes, there's an increase in anti-Semitism, but there's also a corresponding increase in anti-Islamic behavior. But the numbers don't really bear out. So if you look at the numbers, there have been Islamic attacks. They've registered 309 events in the last 2 years. And when I say incidents, I'm talking everything from verbal abuse all the way through to grievous bodily harm, which constitutes an offence. Both sides will have underreported this. There will have been many more that haven't been reported. So it shows there's a lot happening. On the anti-Islamic side or the Islamophobia side, there's been 309 reports in 2 years, from January 2023 to December of last year. I don't know what the stats are for this year, but the reason this information doesn't hold out is if you look at it on a per capita basis, it's heavily skewed towards the Jewish population. So there's 116,000 Jews recorded in the 2021 census in Australia versus 813,000 Muslim population. So there's effectively 8 times more of the Muslim population in Australia, but the Jewish population is experiencing 6 or 7 times more attacks for a population that's only 1/8 the size. So they really are taking a disproportionate number. And I've felt it myself. It's in the universities, it's in public opinion, it's in some institutions. It's been in my own experiences of life around here. It's really shocked me. It's really toxic and really divisive, and I've just hated it, to be totally frank. The reaction to the attack so far, this is pretty interesting. So speaking in the wake of the deadly attack on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he had warned his Australian counterpart, that's Anthony Albanese, that the country's policies were fueling anti-Semitism. And this is his quote: "3 months ago, I wrote to the Australian Prime Minister that your policy is pouring oil on the fire of anti-Semitism," he said, referring to a letter he sent to Anthony Albanese in August following Canberra's announcement that it would recognise Palestinian statehood. "Anti-Semitism is a cancer that spreads when leaders are silent and do not act," Netanyahu said during a televised public address at an event in southern Israel. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemned the Bondi Beach attack on Sunday, calling it evil and that it was beyond comprehension, and convened a meeting of the country's National Security Council. This is a targeted attack on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah, which should be a day of joy, Albanese said, adding, "An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian." So straight away you can see people, they're starting to kind of jockey to make political points or make political point scoring off the back of this, which is pretty bad. But the final point is, what is this going to affect in terms of policy in Australia? Well, there's going to be more discussions around gun laws. If you look at how the weapons they had, they were manually operated. So in Australia, we don't have semi-automatic weapons, which basically means every time we pull the trigger, a round is fired. We have manual ones, so you're having to cycle the bolt yourself. And if you look at the footage of it, one of the guys firing from the bridge actually was pretty good. He was actually displayed pretty handy kind of weapon operating skills, I guess. I had a look at some of the other tactics he had, like firing from obstacles. He didn't really have that. There are techniques to doing that properly, so you minimize your kind of profile and make sure you don't get hit, which I won't talk about here. They had some training and some preparation for sure, and the weapons they were using were, the shotgun looked like a really large capacity magazine shotgun. You can kind of see he's got the barrel, but underneath that is the magazine that runs parallel to it, and it looked like a pretty serious weapon. So gun laws will be discussed. Immigration is another one that politicians are jumping on already. So there's the One Nation. So Pauline Hanson from One Nation has already discussed, and I don't have quotes here, but I saw her discussing her constant point around excessive immigration in Australia. There have been large numbers since COVID. I think we've taken on 1 million in the last 2 years, which is net migration. You can see the effects in the city. There is, like, the cities are straining from the population growth. There's housing issues. There's quite a few things that have happened around this. I'm not linking the two things in this video. I really don't think that's smart. However, this will be a talking point straight away as a result of this. Counterintelligence laws is another one. There's a high likelihood that the intelligence agencies would have foiled a lot of plots like this already, and this one has gotten through. So there'll be obviously an intelligence review, but a very hard thing to try and intercept is these types of attacks. Some of the physical security around these types of events will no doubt be reviewed. The police response, and I actually saw some of the police working around the area where the shooting was happening, and they did a pretty good job under fire if I'm looking at it. So yeah, this will all be discussed, but I think the primary discussion point will be about the direction our country is headed in, because for a few years now, I feel like maybe this is only unique to the capital cities around, especially Melbourne, but Sydney as well. I think there's been a real shift in how Australia kind of feels. I don't really know how. I'm just talking about it from my own personal experience. A lot of volatility, a lot of struggling, a lot of economic depression, especially in Melbourne. This will all be rolled into this broader argument about where the country's headed, I have no doubt. So, terrible attack, bad day, really feel for the people affected by it. And I think that this will cause a much bigger discussion at the political level about the direction Australia's going on a lot of different fronts. So, try and keep a balanced mind on this. It doesn't need people getting kind of foaming at the mouth. So, yeah, keep an open mind, pay attention to it, and I'll be in touch with you soon.